we need to address two things I think we can do on stream right now. Let's address the idea that sticky substances are an epidemic that are ruining the fabric and integrity of baseball as we know it. It's the worst thing since steroids. It's the worst thing since cigarettes were invented. It's the worst thing since drought and famine. Okay, so let's call a spade here. Do some pitchers use a sticky substance in order to improve their grip on the ball? Yes. Have I dabbled? Have I tried it to figure out if it made me better or didn't make me better? 100% I tried it. Doesn't really do much for me. We didn't see any sort of improvement whatsoever. And if anything, it just made me uncomfortable because it was hard to find to get the right, I don't know, feeling. Feeling of the ball is important, and I guess the dry feeling is something I enjoy more than kind of the moist, sticky feeling, right? Didn't really do much for me. Moving on. Do I understand why lots of other players do it? Have seen improvements, have seen increase in spin rates in different pitches, including the four seam. If you're a ride guy, increasing spin rate helps you maintain your ride. If you're a big curveball slider guy, more spin means bigger break for the most part. If you have consistent spin axis and high spin rate, then you get really good break. If you don't have consistent spin axis and it wobbles, doesn't matter how fast it's spinning, it's not going to be very good. Now that I've heard about a lot of the stuff and seen a lot of the stuff and honestly touched some of the stuff some people are using, I realized, man, maybe I didn't try hard enough. Maybe I didn't try enough things. You know, some guys are just like have figured it out, right? And I didn't, but I didn't really put a lot of time and effort into it either. Is it an issue? Probably. And does it need to be addressed with some sort of standardization, just like we do with everything in baseball, right? One issue that I have and constantly have with the MLB and how they handle issues is whenever they have the opportunity to just roundhouse kick players under the bus, they do it as soon as they can. If you can villainize a player, they will do it in a heartbeat. Someone said witch hunt in chat. Can't necessarily be a witch hunt if it does actually exist. Witch hunts are meaning you're chasing something that doesn't exist at all, aka a witch. This does exist, but it's not even close to as big of a deal as it's being made out to be. What they did is they leaked a memo that they were going to give to the players, to the media, like they do all the time. They leak everything they do, showing that they're cracking down. So basically, it turned into a PR problem, and they're choosing to take drastic action out of nowhere without giving guys an opportunity to adjust. The cherry on the top of that sundae, they can use as an excuse because they arbitrarily change the balls all the time. They just whatever they want to happen, they make the balls, they change the balls in order to achieve that end game. They do that. They did it when they juiced them in 19. They did it when they deadened them this year. But instead of knowing that that's very clearly probably one of the main issues or the lack of offensive production this year, instead we're going to blame it on sticky stuff, or at least allude that it's a big issue in order to kind of deflect. That's what's happening. My good friend and teammate Pete Alonso said something about free agency and how balls get juiced when a bunch of pitchers are on free agency, and then balls get deadened when a bunch of hitters are on free agency. I don't think that's as conscious as maybe he alluded, but I do believe that's just a very clear benefit. The strategy of trying to pit players against other players or start pointing fingers is a general tactic used in CBA negotiation years as well. They did that, and the last time we had a lockout, same thing with steroids. Happened exactly the same way that it is right now. It's not part of this big conspiracy master plan, but it is. They're not stupid. They are conscious to those benefits, and that is the way that they are framing things in order to maximize those benefits. Even if it's not directly being done that way on purpose, it's just they're like, ooh, this is pretty nice. That is what I believe. I believe there should probably be a standardization. I think that there's a good opportunity here to start discussing the same way that rosin exists, in the same way that pine tar sticks are on for the bats and sticky sprays on for the bats. Players should have an opportunity, or the ball should just be pre-prepped and stuff, so there's a really standardization. Because standardizing the balls has been horrible. They've done a terrible job of that, because that depends on weather so much. So most pitchers want to go out there and they want a consistent feeling on their hand. They want to pick up the ball and be like, this feels like every time I throw a ball, no matter where I am or what I'm doing, this feels the same. It's a comfort level. I take, like usual, I take the stance that I'm against constantly trying to make everything that is being proposed right now is make pitching harder, make scoring runs easier. How, as a pitcher, am I supposed to be like, for the good of the game? Like, come on. When actual proof that more homers and more like offense itself will grow the game is still lacking to this point. There's still nothing definitive. It's all conjecture based on surveys of people that already watch baseball and so on and so forth. So it just seems like a little bit of a dishonest reasoning in order to minimize. So basically, like, this probably will work, but it's also the cheapest way to do it, right? Which is the bigger benefit. We don't have to take any chances, and it's on the players to make the changes, and so that we are then absolved of any blame. And that seems to be the general mindset, and that is hard to root for as a player. Does that cover it? I feel like that covers it. I prefer pitching error. Prefer the pitching error. They just need to make things fair. How? I think standardizing some sort of something. Standardizing something. Being this is as far as you can go with it. Anything else will be a harsh penalty. I think that making that a thing. The problem is they can't find a standard. They can't decide on one. This is what happens with player no cheating won't get them in trouble. Quesaduda, it also matters what we consider cheating, because remember, we are playing against each other. So what we think is actually cheating matters, whether or not it's made an MLB rule in 1990 or not. I know it's very easy to say, just follow the rules. But just like anything else, any other job, you got stupid rules in place that you believe are stupid. No one follows them. Then one day you can't just be like, well, you're all cheating. Like, come on. There is gray area, and there's got to be. Whether or not a rule's written down or not, if no one's following it, it's not a rule. If you're not enforcing it, it's not a rule. If you don't enforce something, it's not a rule. It's just, in theory, a rule. Why isn't hitting approach brought up talking about this? Players are feast or famine nowadays. It's not fully true, but yeah. It's not about hitting home runs. It's about hitting the ball hard. A lot of people don't understand this as well. There's a lack of understanding. Like you think that everyone's trying to shoot for a homer, when in reality, they're just trying to hit the ball as hard as they can, as often as they can, which is that leads to most hits. It raises your batting average on balls put in play and gets you the most hits when you hit the ball the hardest more often. Unfortunately, that leads to more walks, or that means more strikeouts as well. How would you compare corked bats to the use of sticky stuff? It's the same thing as having a corked bat is literally the same thing as having a juiced ball or a deadened ball. But corking a bat, it's also very hard to do, and there's only a handful of guys doing it. Again, if 80% of the league is doing something, it's no longer cheating at that point. Do you see what I'm saying? The same thing, like if every 25 guys on a team all took steroids, which is bad for your health and you shouldn't do it. But if they all did, now the standard of play is just there. It's no longer like one guy above everybody. It's everyone together. It's the new norm. Exactly. So that said, there's a crazy ability with sticky stuff now with what it is, with some crazy stuff out there, guys, to get a distinct advantage, and that needs to be nipped in the bud. But of course, it's being turned into this firestorm where anyone who's good now is being accused, and so now all we're in is like in this perpetual defending ourselves bullshit. When in reality, now anyone with a Twitter account is just accusing everybody of cheating all the time. So now all pitchers are cheaters until proven innocent. That's what's annoying to me. It could have been handled differently and better, but instead they saw an opportunity to villainize players, so they took it. And that's where we are. MLB just stoking the fire. Look at these cheaters. They're cheating again. That's why our game sucks, guys. It's not our fault. The players are cheating. And the only reason that the Houston Astros were immunity is because of the Players Association, which sucks because I'm a player. But it's important precedent to set in an unprecedented situation that you can't just get rid of everybody, a whole team. There has to be a limit to the power.